to present. So welcome Carol Dennis here this morning, and then Bryan Williams. She's one of our real best supporters around the country.
Thank you, Dean. In January, I was invited up to New Jersey to speak to a group up there, and 2 weeks before I had spoken for the same group, another gentleman had spoken. And everybody was all abuzz about this guy. They'd all had readings by him, and they were all excited. Everybody was talking about him. And I thought, well, who is this guy? And then Mary Beth, who you heard from a little while ago, she showed me some pictures that he had. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Then he had an article in the same publication that I had an article, and I read that, and I went, this is somebody interesting. So then I got a tape, and then I was convinced that this was somebody Global Science had to hear. And so I would like to introduce to you Bryan Williams.
Also, should I just put this in the VCR? There you go. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me down here. My name is Bryan Williams, and I'm known as Sargel 18. And I had a big opening speech already for you, but as a metaphysician and ufologist, I'm always learning constantly in my life, student as well as teacher. And since I've been down here at Global Sciences, I've had a chance to see a lot of famous, gifted people, my peers, I gather, if I should say so. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot that there's a lot of different aspects of the new age and the earth changes and all these prophecies and evidence that's coming up nowadays, supporting all this mind control and the CIA and the government. Roswell I heard about here. And as I'm concerned in my research and what I found out, I like to think that it's cutting edge. I like to stay right on top of stuff. Now, Roswell was cool. We had a saucer fall there. We all know this. The government's lying about dummies and all that stuff like that. We have mind control, and we've had our government involved with aliens, not for hundreds of years, ever since mankind's graced this earth. At least so have I found. And one thing that I see, people like myself, and I'm a star being, and people say, Bryan, you shouldn't say you're a star being, or Sargel, however they address me. And I'm like, why not? I mean, we read about star beings, we know about star beings. Why can't I say I'm a star being so people can get to know what I'm about and what star beings are about and all these souls that have come from all around the universe to help mankind at this juncture? They said, well, you have to have evidence. How are you going to prove it? And I said, you know, that's very good. So in the course of my awakening, I come across a lot of strange energies, and I'll get to how that all happened. But I started making predictions about global earth changes, assassinations, airplane explosions, bombings at our Olympics. And I made them, and I didn't know if they were going to come true. I was able to tap in, so I tried it. Oh, lo and behold, they start coming true, one after another, and that grabbed a lot of attention, a lot of people looking at me at that point. So I started giving psychic readings, and I wound up doing over 3,000 readings around the country, famous in Hollywood, business, and thank God a lot of normal, good people, which I enjoy the most doing the readings for. That was neat. So I'm sitting last year, and I'm like, Divine Providence I'm looking up to, and I'm like, you have to give me something that the gentleman in the bar who just got off of work, it's 5 o'clock, he's going home to his wife, he's got 2 kids, he's having a beer, and he really don't care about what's going on in the world because he has a mortgage to pay at the end of the month, he has electric bills and all that. How am I going to convince him of what I am and the validity of what I believe I am and what I'm doing here? And Devron said, point your camera anywhere in the sky, and we're going to start to give you evidence of your validity. Since then, over the last year, I shot 1,700 UFOs off my porch in Little Falls, New Jersey, which is right outside of New York City. I have clear shots of the ships, the surface of the ships, the cockpits, orbs, probes, what we call flying DNA, which only our astronauts are photographing, but I seem to be photographing it in our atmosphere. I have contacts with aliens, and I'm kind of still reeling because last February 10th, which is 2 Tuesdays ago, as predicted by this energy, Devron, that I'm in contact with, I met with the aliens, face to face as I'm meeting with you. Turned around in the field, there was the vortex. I believe, because I am still reeling from it and trying to assimilate what happened, I stepped into the astral plane physically along with my camera and just let loose 80 pictures. I went back the next night, I got more. I do my research, my field research with Tommy Hawksblood, so he's out there with me almost every night. But this night I was alone. And I'll get to that, and we'll get to pictures and stuff. But here's what happened. In 1964, in Wanacue, New Jersey, there was a major UFO flap. It was over the reservoir, and it was in all the newspapers and the Times, and I think television covered it. Hundreds of people saw these saucers flying over Wanacue, everywhere over northern New Jersey, going into the reservoir for some reason, swimming under the ice, these saucers. It was watched by police and the mayor and other people, and then coming out and hovering and just flying all over the place. In 1964, I was a 4-year-old boy. And I remember lying in my bed and waking up in the middle of the night, and it seemed like there was daylight. The sun was out at night is how I remember it. The sun was out at night. Now I went to the window, and there stood this platform, glowing platform, about 4 feet by 4 feet. And on this platform stood this individual who I now know as Niju. And he's a 7-foot-tall Endorian, which is like a bird, flesh-faced type creature, who stands right next to me right here, and he's a doctor. And these Endorians say to me that they are here to help mankind. They're here to counterbalance another, what we would perceive as negative energy, but of course they don't perceive energy as energy, everything has its job, to counterbalance what is about to happen and to help me in my awakening. So I got dressed. They said, it's time to go to school, Sargel. I walked out my window and onto this platform, floated down behind my parents' house to a little river, little creek, and there was this bell-shaped ship. And I always see bell-shaped ships all the time, especially in the woods. I looked at it, and all I remember from going down the little platform, being a 4-year-old child, was the fact that my sneakers glowed on the platform, and I couldn't get over. I remember looking down and saying how my sneakers glowed against this floor. I went into the ship, and the ship was about 12 feet by 12 feet, but when I stepped inside, it was bigger than this room. And I remember noticing that. Even as a child, that didn't make sense to me. So Niju and the Endorians lift me up. They take me to the Sahara Desert. We step out, and I'm like, we're at the beach. I go, it's the beach. Look at all this sand. Niju says, no, this is the Sahara, and we're going to show you probable realities of mankind's future from the year 1992 to the year 2025. And I'm like, okay, that's neat. And they started flipping these pictures, little movies I'm watching as a little boy. Niju's talking to me and telling me, you're Sargel. He goes, there are 18 of you from your star group, your soul group here on the planet. There are 3 in the United States, a number around the country, and the number 1 from your group lives in a country called Greenland. He goes, you'll get to meet him one day. I'm like, okay, that's neat. They show me the movies. They show me this big book, which when I am channeling and Devron comes in, which is a whole nother story, which I'll get to, I read this big book, and Niju says this is the Akasha. It's a big glowing book, and I just leaf through the pages, and they're all blank, but the book glows. So I don't see words on there. I just get impressions as I'm reading it. I make predictions off of these impressions. He said at 28 years old, go about your life. We're going to take you home. At 28 years old, when your home is overrun by black salamanders, you will awaken. And at that point, you will leave, you will be married, you'll have 2 children, you'll be quite a successful man, you'll have money, and you'll live in a big home with trees. And at that point, it's time to go on your path. And they brought me back. And I woke up the next day. It's just like the first dream you ever have as a kid. You remember this vague dream of something, and I remember this daylight. That's all I remembered from it, the daylight at night. And I woke up the next day, and I was in bed, and I was fully dressed with my sneakers on. And my mom came in and said, Brian, what are you doing? I said, I had to go to school. I went to school last night. I go, the sun was out in the middle of the night. And she's like, yeah, right, all right, go have your, your cereal and go play. I go about my life. 28 years old comes. I'm a VP of an appliance corporation, 3 stores, making some good money. Capitalist, love money, love gold. Mercedes, got all the neat toys. And I was a Jets fan, so I was enjoying another losing season with the Jets. And it was Sunday, and I remember my second refrigerator is down in the basement of this home. So I wanted to go down and get a beer. At the time I drank, socially. I want to get a beer because I figured it was going to be a hell of a game. And I go downstairs and I open up the door in the basement to where the second refrigerator is. and there's salamanders everywhere. Black salamanders with yellow and orange spots all over them. And I'm looking, and the first thing I'm like, I gotta get an exterminator in here. And then, bang, it hit me. And everything started swimming back. I remembered the ship. I started remembering predictions, events, like Russia and all this disbanding, comets that would hit the Earth and other planets in the solar system, earthquakes. The alien stuff started rushing in. I came up from this basement. I didn't even get the beer, actually, from what I remember. Didn't watch the game. I just sat down in my den, and my wife at the time came in and said, "Bryan, what's the matter with you?" And I said, "I don't know what's going on." I said, "Something happened." It felt like something snapped inside me, from reality to alter reality. I went on for about a year or so, and the marriage fell apart. Business no longer mattered to me. Money no longer mattered. That started suffering. My wife wound up leaving. So I'm devastated. I come home, the house is cleaned out, all my toys are gone. You know, my job suffered, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, God, I go, what happened? I lost it. I snapped. Nervous breakdown. You know, I snapped. So I'm sitting there, and I was an avid gun collector. So I took an M1 carbine with a full metal jacket, and I sat in all that was left was my couch in my living room. And I have a fireplace on the wall, a fireplace with a tall mantle on the wall. And I sit there, and a month before, the gentleman that lived across the street from me walked through my property. I had 8 acres. Walked through my property and blew his head off. His wife had left him. Now, I didn't know. I had heard the shot, but I didn't know that this had happened. They were keeping it quiet. I only seen the man once get his mail out of all the years I was there. I was there 3 years, and I only met him once. I had a very long driveway. It was like a mile to the road. Nobody could see where I lived. And I took the gun up, and I took the safety off, and I put it right in my mouth, and I had the trigger, and I'm like, I'm going to end it right here because I just really don't know what's going on. Next thing you know, I look to the left, and there's this guy sitting there, and he's wearing khaki army outfit. And he looks at me, and he goes, "It's easy, Bryan, it's easy. Go ahead, do it." And I look at him, and I said, "Yeah, you just killed yourself, didn't you?" I go, "Boy, that's messed up." He goes, "It's easy, just do it." At that point, if the phone had rang, I had a hair trigger on this thing. If the phone had rang and I flinched, I was gone. My head would have been off. Next thing you know, over my fireplace, this light appears. And it was so bright and warm. And instantly, as growing up a Catholic, I think God's talking to me. God appears. It's Jesus, you know, it's God. And this energy looks at me and says, "Sargel, we want you to go to Wanacue to an individual who you've only met socially. And we want you to go knock on his door, and he will be your first teacher. Now go." We are Devron energies. And I looked, and next thing you know, he was gone, the gentleman that had killed himself earlier. And I put the gun down, and then I had a $10,000 gun collection, had all kinds of neat and weird stuff, could have held an army off for a week, you know, ridiculous. And I left everything, left the guns, left the Mercedes, left whatever I had left, money. I just put the clothes on my back, threw a couple of more clothes in a sack, and just walked away and started walking. I get to this gentleman's house in Wanacue, New Jersey, and I go up. It's about 1 in the morning. I go up, I knock on his door. He owns a bar in this town, and his family's quite wealthy. I knock on his door, and it opens up, and I say, "Am I supposed to come and see you? Am I supposed to come see you?" And he goes, "I've been waiting 15 years for you." He goes, "It's time to learn." So I look at him, and that's the way it's been ever since. In relation to what I've come across, my research, my life in the last 10 years, because I'm 38 now, so this was 10 years ago, has been the fantastic, the illogical. I represent the other side of reality, the thing that's not supposed to work as good as it works. And of course, I didn't even know if it was working good. I had no idea. So he takes me in, and I start studying with this individual. This individual is a black witch, major black witch, with a heart that's probably blacker than black. I didn't know this. I'm innocent. I'm a fifth house individual, folks. For anybody that knows astrology, I have 9 planets and asteroids in the 5th house, 6 conjuncting in Scorpio, including Sun. And 5th house is childlike nature. So I see things as a child, even at 38 years old. That's why I love to play Nintendo. So he takes me in, we start studying. He hands me these books. He said, "These are from my family. I had to get them out of the vault." And his family, they're the largest landowners. They owned a lot of Manhattan 100 years ago before Manhattan kind of like took it back. New York City took it back. So quite wealthy. He said, these have been in my family since the 15th century. I want you to start learning now. So he sits the books in front of me. This is after days, of course. I'm just running through kind of quick. Sits the books in front of me, and they're witchcraft books. Magic. Intense Aryan magic. Old magicum. Stuff dealing with only 7 planets and 7 energies. I'm looking at it, and I start going through. And meanwhile, remember, I'm awakening quantum style. Every day it seems I'm getting smarter, I'm saying. Smarter, smarter, more abilities. I'm trying to assimilate all this. I look at all this magic and all this witchcraft and these quantum theories, and I look up at him after an hour, and I said, I don't want to say his name, but just to say, I said to him, I said, if you take all this dogma, all this religious overtones out of all this, all these words like baby's blood and heart of this and all that, and give me their scientific name, their element name and all that, isn't this just science? If I take all this away, can't we just apply it as science? Okay, you want me to think of something, grab energy from somewhere, and then manifest it back here in this 3rd dimension. Is that what you want me to do? And he's like, yeah, simplistically as a child, yeah, I would say that's what you're supposed to do. I'm like, well, let's just take all this stuff away. Now, I remember looking at him, and I wound up doing it, and it works. I remember looking at him and saying, what the heck is this thing made of? What a weird cover. He said, Bryan, that's human flesh. I'm like, oh, really? And I didn't know black, white. I didn't know about this stuff. I was into the jets. I was into money and hiring and firing people. I watched a ghost show every now and then, or Creature Feature on Saturday afternoon. I didn't know about this stuff. So I started studying. About 8 months, I'm awakening, and he's feeding me quantum information, all I want. And I'm awakening. Finally, I looked at him, and I went up to his house one night, and after I had learned how to read auras, which I found fascinating. Look what I can do, look what I can do. And I go up, and I go into his home, and he's doing his coke. He's doing coke, lying out on the table. I look at him. I said, why are you doing coke? I said, all your power, because I was in awe of this man. All your power. He had 25,000 books in his library, millions of dollars in ancient artifacts that he buys from museums. You know, I'm talking, this guy had just about anything I needed to learn with. I go, and here you're doing coke. He goes, oh, I have to blow it off every now and then. I go, blow it off? I said, with all your power, I don't understand. He said, Bryan, we're here to destroy people. He goes, with your house placement and your Scorpio abilities, with you, I'll destroy the world. And I said, well, what happens if you destroy the world? Where are we going to go, you know? I don't understand what's happening. He said, I'm black, Bryan, and so are you. Now, this town of Wanacue, New Jersey, it makes Stepford look like Disneyland. This place, you go in there, if you're not aligned and in your fear, they will eat you alive. There are other things about Wanacue that I can't talk about because of danger, but let's just say that it's full of witches, Masons, KKK, and for the last, as far as I know, in Indian tradition, Indian folklore about the area, the last 500 years, an alien base under Wanacue. Now, it's funny. My parents decide to move to Wanacue after they get married. My father's going to play Tarzan step in Hollywood, and my parents make it from Staten Island to Wanacue, you know, which is only about maybe 35 minutes away from Staten Island, New York. Wound up living there. Then I moved to Ringwood, and I absorbed energies after 1964, after they showed me probable realities of the future and told me who I was. So anyway, with this gentleman who I learned from, I had the privilege, actually, to learn quantum metaphysics on a level that I don't think too many people get a chance to learn. Plus, innocently, as looking at it as a child like I wasn't influenced by the ramifications, if applied, this magic of hurting people. I looked at this gentleman, I said, I am not here to hurt people. I said, and neither are you. I said, if you have hurt people, and then he later showed me how he does, and he is quite effective at what he does. Why don't you just change and help mankind? Why don't we take all this information that you've just given me, which is fantastic, and works if applied as technology, and let's go help the world. Let's go feed that there's a poor family down there that's so messed up it's ridiculous. Let's give them the old, whammy that way and make their life better. Make them stop drinking and stop doing drugs, these people. And he says, no, you can't do that. It's karma. He goes, but you are here to destroy. Because I'm learning, remember, as I'm going. I looked at him about a year later, and there was a little boy standing in front of a grocery store across from the way from his bar. And his girlfriend had pissed him off. And he looked out at this little boy, and there was a transformer on, you know, transformers, electrical transformers. And he looked, and folks, this did happen. He looked at the transformer and he said, explode. And he moves his hand, a Kabbalistic move. It exploded. And all that hot oil fell onto this little boy and burned him 95% of his body. He ran through the streets burning his whole body. And I looked at him and I said, that's enough. I said, thank you for teaching me what you taught me. You have no idea, number one, who I am. I go, and I'm going to give you and this people in this town a choice. And for the next 3 years, I lived 2 doors down from him. I rented a place. And in Wanacue, I gave people a choice of the light or the darkness. Actually, after 3 years, I was winning until I opened my door one morning, and there stood 12 men with the cloaks, with the capes, with the sickles and the axes, and him standing in front of me and saying, I love you very much, Bryan. Why don't you leave now? And I said, okay. I think it's time. I said, I've given people a chance. So I left. Meanwhile, I'm talking to aliens. I'm seeing ships flying all over the place, and I'm telling people who I read for, and you know, I'm making predictions about who I read for. I think, oh, there goes a UFO, and there goes a UFO. And they're like, Bryan, you're a nut. I'm like, no, really, I'm seeing them all over the place. I'm talking to the aliens. They tell me information. They tell me what to do with these magical principles and how to help people. They help me align when I'm reading for people. They feed me information. I said, it's all working great. So when I left, I went to a television show where there was a quasi-psychic, I'll call him, who really loves money. And I just wanted to learn because I had a feeling that I was going to be in the public eye. As much as I believe it or not, I don't like it. I like to be private and alone and doing my research all the time, but they're making it happen. So I'm watching this show. So he wanted to cut out early after the television show so he can go about his business. He made his money. So he saw me all dressed up, and at the time I was dressed in black. I only wear white now, coat and hat, but I used to have black coat and hat. And he put me up on stage to talk to the people so he could escape. And he didn't think that I had any ability. So I wound up starting to talk to the audience after his show. Well, the audience started lasting 45 minutes, hour and a half. Finally, each night that I would go up there, they'd have to throw us out the studio because we're just having fun picking people apart and asking questions and all. And his sponsor was a gentleman that owned a worldwide pharmaceutical corporation. He was the CEO of it. And he's metaphysical, and he's from India, and he's let's say he's like a junkie. So he comes up to me, he goes, look, I'm going to jump ship here. He goes, this guy is nothing compared to you when it comes to the abilities. I said, well, he's a good guy, stay with him, you know. I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you want. He goes, no, I want to do business with you. So he came, and we started doing business. And I read for him, and I said, I don't know what it is, but 17 months from this day, 17 months, my friend, you're going to have a choice to make, either light or the darkness. I said, right now, you're pretty much of the darkness. You're a liar, you're a conniver, womanizer, and an egomaniac, even worse than me. And I go, but you know, divine providence says, I got to help you, so you have a choice, so let's work. I didn't know he was connected to the defense intelligence community and world banking community. Okay, but they're the community, they're the renegades. All these like spies and all that, they get all these great deals. Get $1 million or $2 million from this country, you got a connection there, you get some bearer bonds, you do a little deal here and there. These guys are all rich. It's unbelievable. So what happened was these group of people, these agents and world banking type people, wanted to raise venture capital and spend their money and turn it all into good so they can retire and be wealthy. So he used to ask me to go to these meetings. And I would go to Wall Street, and I'd go up in these great big offices overlooking New York, and I'd sit there and I'd listen to the meeting. And whoever was sitting at that meeting, I would be reading to see who's lying and who's not lying, who does have money and who doesn't. And most of them didn't have money. They were just doing their own deals, trying to raise capital. And the only problem is when $100 million is crossing the table, everyone's lying. It's just who's lying to our advantage, you know? So I started doing that work. In 1 year, I made him $12 million. At that point, put me up in a $500,000 condo, $100,000 car, and gave me all the money I wanted in the world to just sit there and align. And he bought me a PlayStation, which was real neat, so I could play. So I could align and go to these meetings twice a month and sit down and tell them who's lying and who's not. And it worked. I used to take over pharmaceutical companies, his rivals, Not the good ones, not the healthy ones. If he wanted to come in and just like take that company, I wouldn't take it. But if I would check the company out and it was in trouble, if it was being run by what I would call a bad man or a bad woman, then I would go in and do my thing and get the insider information on the company. How I did this is I used to talk to the trees. I still do talk to them, but I did it then. I would go up to a tree at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Now imagine, here I am, sneakers, jeans, tank top, ball cap, walking around these companies at 1 o'clock in the morning. I got these CEOs with $1,000 shoes, $10,000 watches, and these like Armani suits walking with me. And I'm walking up to the trees and I'm asking the trees questions about this company. What's a good date to make this move? Will this man succeed? Will this guy be fired? They would give me the information back in intense astrological equations. Luckily, he was an intense astrologer. So I would then thus give him the information from the trees. He would then revert the astrology to technology that he could understand and take over the company. And it worked. And it worked fantastic. Matter of fact, I cut a great deal with the oak trees. That'll be another lecture. That was real cool. Let me tell you, trees are your friends, and there's one thing you would not want against you are the trees on this planet. Once I made him all that money, he looked at me and he said, I lived in a very fancy place. I hate a place where you walk down the hall and you can't hear your footsteps because there's so much carpeting. And I lived in this very fancy place, and I used to have people come for readings, normal people. And since I had all the money I wanted in the world, I didn't charge for them. Because why should I charge? I had plenty of money. All I had to do was ask for money. I had $50,000 in my desk in cash all the time. So I could take as much money and buy whatever I wanted metaphysically for my research. He says to me, he goes, you can't help normal people anymore. I looked at him, I said, what do you mean I can't help normal people anymore? He goes, you're too valuable. He goes, you're getting too well known around the international banking community. The other agents have picked up on you. They want to know who you are. We can't let you help any people anymore. I said, oh no. I said, you can't do that. I said, you see, I got this tunnel, this mission, and anything steps in front of that, He goes, well, let me tell you. He goes, I'm practically God to you right now because you didn't sign any of this money or this company to me. We did this as friends. I own everything. I'm CEO and president. And I was like, well, I didn't want a position. You said if I help you, you'll help me with my mission and let me help people. I go, oh, so it works. So you want me now to lock me up? He goes, you're not leaving. Well, he went about his business. I think he had to take the Lear and go, in fact, down to Florida. And came back the next night, and Sargell 18 was gone. I left all my furniture, $28,000 worth of beautiful cherry wood furniture in my office with crystal cabinets, which I kept all my implements in. I took the stuff that was just mine, the crystals, the wands, the herbs, the oils, my books, which are over 1,000 volumes, metaphysical books, and I went to a basement of my girlfriend's house in Little Falls, New Jersey. Basement's about 2,000 square feet, and I sat there and I said, okay, God, that didn't work. What are you going to do for me now? What should I do to help mankind? He says, start learning more. Go buy a computer. I'm like, oh, okay, go buy a computer. I go, that's cool. So I'm just at that time talking to Devron. I got the computer. I set it up. I said, okay, Devron, you're a divine concept. This is where this energy is. He said, teach me computers. You created them. So I sat down and started learning. A year and a half later, now I can build computers. I can network them. I know just almost everything that there is to know about them. And people have watched me. I have people around me all the time watching me. They just can't believe it. They're like, you can hardly talk, yet you just learned this all by yourself. And I'm like, divine concept, divine concept. All the information for us is floating up there. What happened was no money. I lived from reading to reading. Sometimes I get 1 reading a week. Maybe I'll get lucky 3 readings a week. I use that money just to help my research, pay whatever bills I can. In a year and a half, I'm sitting there. Ever since I've been awakened, people have told me, you think you're good now. Wait until you see what happens to you in January of 1997. My astrologers, I show them my chart. They say, wait till January 1997, what happens to you? Psychics say to me, wait till January 1997, see what happens to you. All right, January of 1997 comes. I'm poor. I'm sitting there. I'm in a cold basement because there's no heat in the basement. And I'm watching only thing I have from my capitalist life is my 31-inch TV. I'm sitting there and saying, people aren't listening. Predictions that I made, Flight 800, the month that the Israeli prime minister would be assassinated, the day that the bomb would go off at the Olympics, Hayukatake, the comet that would come and mess people's minds up, earthquakes, the sinking of the ferry in England, the value jet crash, Flight 800, the day that it would happen and why it happened, and a bunch more predictions, including that in December of 1997, the Earth will be hit by a giant meteor or comet. A celestial visitor will come that will affect the flesh, as Devron predicted. And also, that was also one of the movies that I was shown aboard ship. So my critics watch me as well as the supporters. The prophecies are coming true one after another. Actually, percentage rate, not as good as most of the people here. It's only 94% correct in my world predictions. And people say you shouldn't say that, but I can always just make more predictions, and I'm going to tonight or today. Tell you what's going to happen this year in some events. December 9th comes. Greenland is hit by a giant meteor. It turned night into day for 100 miles around impact, created a crater over 1 kilometer long, sent shock waves. In third dimension, when we drop something, it's a basic physical law of the universe, you drop a pebble into water, into still water, and the circle of energy comes out round. Just like if I do this, that's how the energy comes out. This thing only sent energy out to the left, which still geologist friends of mine can't figure out why. What happened. It was equal to a 15-ton megaton nuclear bomb, 15 megaton nuclear bomb. Nobody heard anything about it, did they? The only reason I knew is because, number one, I was getting more in the public eye. I'd already given a couple of lectures. This is only my 4th lecture, folks, that I've ever given in my life. I had a big lecture coming up for the Metaphysical Center at William Patterson University, and I'm thinking, okay, my stock market prediction for October went perfect. It did crash. If they didn't suspend trading, the bottom would have fell out. 600 billion was lost. It did crash. Okay, you guys got to give me something. Everybody's looking at my December prediction. It's been up on my webpage for 2 years about this celestial visitor that will come. All right, I'm going to go in front of all these people, like 200 people in northern New Jersey, and now I'm going to miss. I'm like, oh, all right, we'll see. The Metaphysical Center wanted to send some of the directors out to check Devron out, have me channel, do the predictions, ask questions. They came out on December 11th. Now we have these fireballs, remember, that have been falling around the country and the world, in Midwest, Colorado, all these fireballs. Now, this was December 11th, so Tommy Hawk's blood and Mary Beth came to my place, and I brought Devron through, and they got a chance, Mary Beth, the first time to talk with Devron. And we went our thing, and Mary Beth asked, Brian, are these fireballs that are falling around the Midwest, is this the prediction of a celestial visitor that will come and affect the flesh? Or Devron, she asked, I'm sorry, not Brian. And Devron said, no. Look for 2 days for a disaster in Greenland, and look for a major Hollywood star to die in the next 3 days. Well, Chris Farley died within that 3-day period, okay? Now, the meteor had hit on December 9th. This was December 11th. No news had been released at all, otherwise you guys would know it. It would be all over the networks. On December 13th, on my AOL, because I'm on America Online, folks, if you want to get in touch with me, on my AOL, my news is customized. UFO, meteor, saucer, anything like that. Comes to me, those key words. I see an article there, it says, Greenland hit by giant meteor. And I'm like, whoa, click. And I'm reading. And here's what I read. Copenhagen, Denmark. Okay, hold on. Sorry. Okay, I can't find it here. I'm a little discombobulated on that, but I'll just tell you. If you want to come up and read the actual Associated Press and Reuters World International article, you can. And it said that Greenland was hit by a giant meteor. It was reported by an observatory in Nuuk, Greenland. Okay, and what I told you, that it turned night into day, trawlers and ships that were out there, the people were disoriented. The light was so bright when us as a human being walk out of the darkness into the sun, you know how you get, you know, that disorientation. This is what happened to these people aboard these ships. It was recorded by a surveillance video camera coming in over the coast. Now it didn't come in down. This thing, as was recorded, was traveling sideways as it came in, which is almost impossible. But one thing that the pictures did pick up, which are nowhere, by the way, on the net or anywhere, and I cannot find, if anybody can, please tell me where they are, 2 tails as it came in. It had 2 tails. Now, I talked to Dr. Bruce Cornett, who's a ufologist and geologist, and I said, Bruce, I said, what is this 2-tail deal? He said, well, Brian, he goes, most of the time that would mean that 2 chunks fell, okay, or it could have been a small comet. I'm looking on the news, I'm looking on AOL, I'm checking out any updates, because I'm all excited because, wow, this did happen. Now when I go in front of these people, I'm not going to look like an idiot. I had this other prediction that had been out there almost 3 years and on the webpage for 2 years that have come true. Okay, I feel a little better, now I can talk to these people. So I'm checking. On the 16th, a second article follow-up came up that the satellites, weather satellites, had picked up the crater that it made, the big hole, which I was lucky enough to get. Okay, and if anybody contacts me on AOL, I will send these pictures to you with the articles. All right, I was lucky enough to get that they saw the crater. And then on December 18th, because I'm an AOL junkie, I'm all the time clicking to see if I got any email. I love when people write me. And I'm checking to see any more updates past the 16th, and all of a sudden I pull up the news that has Meteor in it, and there was Meteor sneakers and Meteor records and Meteor deal this and that, all little articles that have the keyword Meteor. And I look and I go, oh, hold on, maybe I did something wrong. I go, where's the Greenland Meteor story from the 13th and the 16th? Because it's always been right in line, right there every time I've checked. I look, it's not there. I go to the Associated Press World Wire. Every other story was there but the Greenland Meteor. I go to Reuters, which is the internet worldwide news thing. Gone. Luckily for my speech, I copied I clicked it and stole it basically off the net, you know. I clicked the articles, Associated Press and Reuters. At that point, I realized that something was up. It wasn't on the news. It already had been 9 days since it was hit. We all know about the au pair in Boston that killed that child and got away with it, right? Everybody here knows that, right? How come we don't know about one of the greatest events that has happened to modern man? This was equal to that meteor that hit Siberia 100 years ago and like flattened 100 miles of forest. Now, Devron had said, so I sent it out to everybody. Devron had said that a celestial visitor will come that will affect the flesh. So I asked Devron, I said, okay, Dev, I got a good working deal with him. I go, okay, Dev, why? What's it going to affect? He said, we want you to look for 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, you will start to see death because of this. But go ahead, Sargel. We don't give you everything. Go learn. You're still learning. I'm like, all right, great, fine. So I start reading about Greenland. As soon as I read the sentence, it hit me. Greenland holds the largest deposit of fresh water on our planet. Those ice caps where this thing hit, that's the fresh water. Now, this fresh water, of course, right about now in the next month or two, this ice cap will start to melt. It hit right on the edge of the island. Now, whatever brought this thing that will affect the flesh, and I've been so right with the predictions, I'm really not going to second guess myself. I'm not going to make apologies for my gifts and abilities. You know, if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do, you do. God bless you. Either way, it's all right. But, I'm looking at this and I'm like, what's going to go into our ocean? And you should be concerned with this. What's going to go into our ocean from this meteor? Because that, I feel, is what's going to happen, and it'll happen this summer. Now, I'm not saying that plankton is going to be destroyed and wiped out on this planet. But let's just say, whatever this thing, this celestial visitor had with it, okay, it goes into the ocean. Let's just say it killed plankton, okay? I got a feeling we're beat as a race in about 10 years. Because it flows upwards then, folks, not downwards. And we're up there. All right, so that's what happened. It's very important that I get this information out to you. What I would like you to do yourselves is go on the net, try to find anywhere that you can any information on this hit on Greenland. I personally checked to see how many people are on America Online in Greenland. I sent over 60 emails out to these people with the title of the mail, hello. Simply hello. So when you look, you see a letter for you, it says hello. Okay, it didn't say meteor, it didn't say UFO fanatic, it just said hello. Checked a week later, every email has been deleted and not read. Because you can do that on AOL. Also, you can tell when somebody else on America Online is online with you. It's called instant messaging. You put it in, and if the person's online, a little red flag comes up. Okay, so that means I can just click a button and send a message that says hello to them, and it'll come up no matter what they're doing right in front of them, and they can either click me off or answer. Well, I sent out a bunch of them, too, people who were online. No answers. I've now been trying to get to a number of web pages that say they have pictures of this thing from that camera, because it ran on Dutch television. It's all over Europe. And I'm sitting here, oh, I'm sorry. I tried to get to the web pages, and I can't. The server is down. Error, error, error. I can't get to it. So I don't know what's happening. This is a big story. I don't like the deception thing and all that, but I mean, my God, this is in my face. I have the evidence here that it hit. I have the satellite photos. It's all over there are references, 200,000 references to it on the web and people's web pages. But human nature, from what I learned from working for DI people and the world banking people, is greed and power. Now, the au pair was covered pretty well. I was kind of sick of the au pair thing. Even though I don't watch TV that much, every time I put it on, there she was. We should have been inundated with this story. Channel 7, Channel 2, they should have had all the commentators. The commercials alone, now that I'm being introduced to the television industry and seeing how they work, the commercials alone were worth $100,000, $200,000 a pop from the sponsors. No story. Now, the only thing I can say is that this is somehow hooked in with these UFOs that I'm about to show you, okay, and why this is here. This is part of Earth changes. When I was in the service, I had a secret security clearance also. I was an ordnanceman. But it was just because I had to put a couple wires together and work with Sidewinder missiles. I wasn't meeting with aliens or underground or anything like that. That was just the deal. But I know this, NORAD, if a hammer enters our quadrant of space, they know it. They knew this was coming. This thing, according to in these reports, when it hit, the actual chunk was larger than a football field. To be able to create a crater that big. They knew it. Now, maybe they stood up, the world government sat up and said, look, if we tell people who are about to get hit by a giant meteor, they're going to freak. So let it fall where it may, and then we'll deal with the problem. Luckily, it hit Greenland. But where I am in New Jersey, in New York area, Greenland's only like 1,000 miles that way. And on this big planet, that was pretty darn close. And now I see that there's fireballs falling all over the place. Everywhere, hitting airplanes down in South America, landing here in the United States. I think we're in the path of something. I don't think anybody's saying anything to us. But you know what? That's okay. Because even if you all freak about this, right, and go, oh my God, what are you going to do? I'll get to Flight 800. I made the predictions, as I said, Flight 800 and Israeli Prime Minister assassination. I missed the Oklahoma bombing. That night I predicted the ferry sinking in England. And I said to Devron, I said, hey, you know, Oklahoma bombing, you know, hello? This was a big thing. You got me predicting a ferry in England, which I don't even know anybody in England, and you're saying that has something to do with me, but the Oklahoma bombing doesn't? He said, it's a dear one. He said, if we had told you about this bombing, what would you have done? I said, oh, gee, I guess I would have hopped the plane and stood in front of the building and started waving people away. And they said, who do you think they'd arrest? You know, when it went off. Because you can't change things. We just want to make you aware so you can tell people. So last January, before this alignment, I'm sitting there, I'm crying. My readings had stopped. All money had stopped. John Grisham, everybody probably knows this author, John Grisham. I've just become aware of him in the last year. His international agent came out last summer and signed me to a book deal, solicited me, and I wrote this book. And it's committed in 15 countries around the world at the German Book Festival, but still have yet to get a publisher here in the United States because as the letters come back, they say in lieu of his tremendous ability to prophesize, psychic ability, and tremendous UFO evidence, he is not credible enough to make these statements about what these UFOs are here to do. So I think I scared somebody. Last year I went on Strange Universe. They ran a special on me. They called me the UFO prophet. And that was the first time I was ever called the word prophet. I don't think of myself as a prophet, and I don't have religious implications with it. If a prophet is somebody that prophesies, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm sitting there and I'm crying and I'm like, God, I go, you got to help me. I go, people aren't listening. I'm making all these prophecies. I'm doing all this, reading for people and this neat stuff. I go, but nobody's listening. I go, that is not going to make that man put that beer down that has to go home at 5:30 to his wife and his 2 kids and his life. And it's not going to make him put it down and go, whoa, hey, you know, maybe I should think about this. So January 19th comes. I'm lying on my couch. I'm all bummed out. Next thing you know, my left ear blows up. And I can't walk. I'm falling to the right. I'm stumbling. I couldn't even go out to the store. I had to have my girlfriend. I'm crawling along the floor. Because every time I stood up, I'd start going right. And I'm like, wow, I must have a major ear infection. Well, this lasted for 4 days. I wanted to go to the VA hospital because I'm a veteran. And it's free. But Devron kept saying, just wait. Just wait. January 25th, on January 22nd, As I said, I don't watch TV that much, but it was like 2:30 in the morning. I was sick. I couldn't go to sleep. I happened to switch along the channels, and up by me, we got like 1,000 channels now, all kinds of stuff. And I see this show, Sightings, and all I caught was like 30 seconds as I was starting to fall asleep, a gentleman shooting a technique called solarization. And as I'm going to sleep, I go, oh, that's neat. And I went to sleep. That's all I saw. TV wound up running at night. 3 days later, not that I woke up 3 days later, but 3 days later, I went to make myself a cup of coffee. I got up in the morning, and when I touch water, I have 7 planets, as I said, Scorpio 6 and Cancer rising in water. When I touch water, I ignite. Devron comes through sometimes, right there he is. So he says to me, he goes, I want you to take your little camcorder that you bought for shooting birthday parties, and I want you to point it anywhere in the sky, and we're about to give you validity of you and us and your mission here. And I'm like, I don't want to. I want a cigarette and I want a cup of coffee. I don't really feel like going to do this. And then he said in this tone, like, go do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, I recognize that tone. All right, so let's see what you got. So I set it up and I shoot. Come in, I've got my coffee and cigarette. I come in and I go downstairs and I put it up on my TV and I'm watching, and there are 2 UFOs on my film. And I'm like, what's this? I go, alien? I go, I thought Merlin was going to appear or something. This is the big thing in January of 1997 that everybody's been predicting that it's going to happen to me. I go, ships? He goes, now take this and start filming. And every week we will give you better and better until your meeting. You are being geared for ambassadorship. I go, oh, you really want people to hate me now, don't you? And think I'm weird. Okay, well, I trust you, so I'll do this. So I started shooting with the little camera for 2 months. I got saucers, which you're going to see. I got light ships. Orbs, motherships, like in the book, as people have told me. I have not read the book, The Watchers, Benny Andreasen story. Okay, I'm going to show you the actual ships in full detail, okay, which is real neat. It just got better and better and better. In May, I had gone to my friend's High 8 Sony, and I took a picture of 7 cigar ships before I had gone to Pine Bush, New York, to do some shooting with Bruce Cornett and Tommy Hawksblood. I shot 7 cigar ships within 300 yards of me. Now, I'm pretty psychic, if I do say so myself, okay? I don't miss much. Even if I act like I'm missing it, believe me, I'm not. And I didn't see these things. And I see ships all the time. People all that knows me and now publicly know I see ships all the time. I didn't see these ships. That scared me. At that point, I wasn't sure if they were good or bad. I wasn't sure yet. I wasn't getting that info. At that point, I realized you don't sneak into somebody's backyard with good intentions, okay? You knock your ball as a kid over somebody's fence. You go up, you knock on a door. Ma'am, can I go in your backyard, get the ball? Fine. These guys were unannounced, okay? At that point, I realized that they weren't good. I still didn't know who they were yet, not until I wrote the book, until I first sat down, the first sentence Devron said to me. So I start shooting. A lady in Washington, D.C. sees my photograph. She's been following my predictions on my webpage, and she calls me up and she wants to talk. And make a long story short, she goes, what can I do to help you with your research? I have no money, and I'm like, Devron, tapes alone are killing me because I'm always getting stuff, and I got to save it. I go, whoa, my friend runs an appliance store down the street, P.C. Richards. I said, I'd love to have that $5,000 Sony digital camcorder, the VX1000. That's all I hear everybody talking about. She's like, okay. So I hang up the phone. I go, people call me a nut. Okay, look at this. This lady said she's going to buy me a $5,000 camcorder, no strings attached. 2 hours later, Sonny calls me up. He says, Brian, he goes, somebody just bought you the camcorder, the VX1000, with all the attachments and 3 years service on top of it. Come get it. Boy, you could have picked me up off the floor with a spoon. This lady, by the way, gets all my information first. But she did not ask anything of me. All she said was, my God, what happens if you're correct? That month, other people heard about it. In the month of May last year, $42,000 worth of equipment and supplies were donated to me from people around the country, out of the blue, who I don't even know, with no strings attached. They just kept coming. I had 4 computer systems. I have personally like 5 scanners at home. I don't know what to do with all this stuff. I mean, I try using it all I can, but it's just coming in. Tapes, supplies. Some people actually sent a couple dollars, which, helped pay some of the electricity. And then it ended. Divine Providence just gave me enough. So me being this person I am, I'm shocked, emotionally shocked about this. I said, well, I'm sure in hell not going to let these people down. I'm going to learn everything on how to use this equipment and use it to its fullest capacity. So I did. Then the shot started getting better, folks. Real good. And I'm going to show you that in a few minutes. Kept going until about a month ago I stopped. Now, Deveron predicted on December 11th that in January of 1998, we are going to give you new abilities that will even set you further away from the rest of the pack. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm going to have my meeting, right? I'm going to meet the aliens, right? He's like, you'll see. By February 1st, you'll know what this is about. Tommy Hawksblood and I, we go out looking for this alien base. We do every night. I'm sure you guys last night were sleeping. And I'm sure a month ago, if I asked you what you were doing at 2 in the morning, you'd say you were sleeping. But except for being down here, from 1 to 4 in the morning, I go up into the watershed properties up in northern New Jersey, where there are no people for like 20 miles in all directions, and I bait myself every night. I sit out there all alone, and boy, let me tell you, it's scary. Monsters scare me. UFOs don't, but monsters, in the mind, that can scare me. And I sit there and I wait, and that's what I do. During the daytime, I shoot and I do my research, and at night, I look for the aliens. So we go to a new place, and I'm filming, and we found a new technique that if I take a flash and put it up here away from the camera and flash either the video camera or the new 35mm digitals, I see things. Things come out on the camera that you can't see. I sense psychically, but I could never get evidence before. And I found out that we're walking. Right now, there's all kinds of aliens and entities in here, besides the ones that you guys are bringing with you and I have with me. But they can't. They're bending light, just like the Predator from the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. They're bending the light around them. That's how come, and they're interdimensional, but when they're here, they're bending the light. That's why we can't see them. So I photographed an alien with a helmet, with one eye, and I said, boy, what is this? So that night was Sunday night. Tommy went home, because he stays with us on the weekends. He has to work. He went home, and I look in the kitchen, I go up, and there's his 35mm camera sitting there on the table. And I'm like, whoa. I go, Tommy never leaves this. I go, I know signs. I've been taught to look for signs. I go, they want me to go. I know they want me to go. So I called Tommy up and said, I'm going to go. He's like, no, don't go there. Don't go there by yourself. Wait for me. Tommy's like my protector that way. And where I went for hundreds of years in Wanacue, New Jersey, the Lenni Lenape Indians would not let their people in this area because of floating ghost people and animal killings, weird animal killings. This just so happens to be right on top of the base, okay? So the next night, Tuesday, I can't handle it. I know the feeling. I know what I got to do. So that night at 10 o'clock, I go out, I take my camera, my digital one, and Tommy's 35mm digital camera, go get myself a Yoo-hoo, and I'm off to the base. And I'm walking back down there, and the moon's full, and it's creepy. And I walk back to a new spot, an open field like this, about as big as this whole room, big open field. And I'm standing there, and I did something different that night. I took my camera. I know I only got a few more minutes because I want to show some of the ships. I took my camera, and I set it up on a tripod here. I put a little Marlboro Miles light about 20 feet out on this little path, and then, because it's dark, and I looked in the camera, and I had the light at the very bottom of the picture so I could shoot the field. And I just let the camera run, the digital camcorder. So I went in front of it, and I'm standing there like this, and I'm messing with Tommy's camera because I never used it before I turned it on. I'm looking at it, and I say, okay, on button. I put it on, all of a sudden I go, and there's the alien. And he's standing right there behind me. And I'm looking at it, and it looked like an old pane of glass that settles. You know how the wobble of the glass settles? And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, and at that point I could have freaked, anything could have died of a heart attack, but it was right there 2 feet behind me. And I go, what do you feel like? Because I can sense you psychically. I can see you now, but I just wanted another. I wanted to touch him, So I went to touch the alien, and it jumped back. And when it jumped back, I saw its whole form at that point. And that startled me, okay, because I saw the whole form move back. I realized that the camera I'm holding in my hand is reflecting off of it. And I'm looking, and I'm like, you're bending light. Here, I'm talking to myself, but I'm like, you're bending light. As far as I'm concerned, I wasn't sure if it understood me. And I stepped forward. And when I stepped forward, I think I stepped into the astral plane. This has just happened, folks. The next day I was called to come down here. I'm still assimilating this stuff, and I'm still in shock, okay? So I'm trying to explain it the best I can. When I stepped forward, the feeling that came over me surprised me. It was of love and warmth like I have never felt. Now, the first thing as being an emotional dad, I have 2 beautiful kids, is that even a while back, which I'll tell in my workshop about the saucer that landed for me and defense intelligence individuals when I was there, which I have no proof of, but I didn't have a camera at the time. But when I saw my kids born, that was the greatest thing that ever happened in my life. It's my greatest creation of my son and my daughter. But what I felt when I stepped into that space challenged that. And that has me feeling weird. I'm still trying to figure that out because I was no longer restricted by third dimension. A third-dimensional soul vehicle, a body, in the astral plane, functioning with its camera. So at that point, when that hit me, I looked and said, I'm not going to hurt you. I said, I just want to touch you. I just wanted that physical confirmation, which as a psychic star being, I shouldn't need it anyway, but what the hell, I wanted it, you know? So I went to go touch it again, and it just stepped back instead of jumped. And at that point, I realized I had the camera in my hand. Thank God that I realized. So I brought it up, 35 millimeter digital, I can just shoot 64 pictures straight out. So I started shooting pictures. And then I started walking around going, where are you? You can see it on my digital tape. I'm going, where are you? Looking around. I go, I can sense you. So I sensed it over there and I shot. And I sensed it over there and I shot. Now I shot right in front of me. And from me to this pretty lady right here away, I sensed it. So I said, there you are. And I shot it, just like this. And you're not going to, this is in the workshop, folks, but these pictures, I'm going to show you the other pictures. But I shot it, and there it was when I got home on my digital camera. My 35 millimeter digital only showed a dispersion of energy. That's all that came up of the alien. But the 35 millimeter, 20 feet, I mean, the video camcorder 20 feet behind me photographed the whole thing. The flash that I shot from the camera illuminated it, and I have what you're going to see for the first time, and I'm breaking it here, global science. Aliens, lizards, in as good as I would shoot you right here. Okay, vortexes, gremlins, something that Deveron calls a dweezil, which looks like Daffy Duck with a ski cap flying by. With energy coming out of it that he says that we would know as gremlins that used to mess with the pilot's planes. Okay, he said this is what this is. Ask a pilot what a dweezil is. He'll know it as a gremlin. Buildings and structures that weren't there. A light that has tremendous, according to the scientists that have come in the last few days to talk with me, tremendous religious implications. Okay, vortexes, plasma, you name it. I shot off 80 pictures. That night, I got 80 things. I'm going to show you here at Global Sciences during the workshop about 15 of these pictures. But now, I know I'm kind of going, I got time is short. I want to show you, I'm going to show you actual footage of the ships going by, how they travel. They're traveling from a couple of 100 miles an hour, folks, to matching the Earth's rotation. We estimate at 18,000 miles an hour, but this is only speculation. Unless somebody wants to donate 3 more $5,000 cameras to me, then I will thus set them at a mile coordinates apart, and then we can find out exactly how fast they're going. But until then, this is the best you're going to get. And I'm going to show you actual footage of motherships, a resource cigar, and then I'm going to show you about 15 or 20 stills of different ships. And by the way, these ships are going to Atlantis, where our lizard-type aliens are, where the Greys are right now, and where our Atlantean ancestors are coming back. And I didn't know this until I went to write the first sentence of my book, Alien Agenda, Prophecies for the Millennium and Beyond. I sat down, I thought for 2 weeks how to start the book, and I went in front of the computer, and Deveron said, okay, did you think enough? And I'm like, yeah, I got a lot of stuff. He goes, all right, throw it all away. Now we're going to give you the information. He goes, I want you to start the book, Atlantis is About to Rise. And then it hit me, and I'm thinking, what a dope I am. Atlanteans used to fly around in long cigar-shaped ships powered by crystals. This is what I'm shooting left and right. I go, now it makes sense. So let me show you. I guess I just put this on. You got it? Okay. Can I see it so I can talk through it? Okay. No. This is August 7th, 1997, 2:47. Oh, okay. Well, see, I have to, maybe I should step down. You want me to step down there and I can talk so I'm out of the way on the left side? Will this reach, folks? Okay. I'm going to bring that back.
You need more. Oh, you got enough.
This is all right. Okay, we're going to bring that back, right, guys? That's what we're doing. Now, I'm not into showing you far rods, even though I do show rods. I'm all over Roswell Rods webpage. My deal is I want to show you what the surface of these ships look like. I want you to see the doorways and the cockpits, because for the reason I believe these ships in the year 2003, as the prophecies go through, they're going to shift over and they're going to invade, if I'm correct, the Earth. And they're here now. Now we're going to see, are we running? When this hits 17, that's the ship flying by. You see how quick it went? Now we're going to slow it up. I'm going to slow it up. This is a resource cigar. It's carrying minerals, animals, people that disappear to the astral plane, to Atlantis. Now we're going to slow it up frame by frame. You're going to actually see the square ship flying. Around it are auric fields, which are superheated granite, pulverized granite, mixed with steam, and sprayed out. Between that and their speed, they are subliminal to human sight. There's your resource cigar. There's your true UFO. The government spends millions of dollars a year telling you that UFOs do not exist, and they spend millions of dollars a year making sure that you know what a UFO looks like. A round, lighted ship with gray aliens on it, because they don't want you to know about these. These are the boys. These are the UFOs. These are true unidentified flying objects. Because the saucer, by the time now, folks, is identified. We just don't know who's driving it, but we know it's a saucer. And this is a resource cigar. It's over a half-mile long. My camera degree is at a 50-degree angle, and I'm just cutting the sun off, so you can see them. During the daytime, you can see them very well if they go near the sun, because in third dimension, they have to apply the third-dimensional laws. This will be off in a second. On August 18th, when it says 27, and the seconds hit 27, you're going to show you a mothership. It's going to spit a probe out and fly about its business. Here it comes from the right to the left. Hold on. There it goes. That was a rod, by the way, that flew by. One of those Roswell rods. Now we're going to slow it up. Here it comes. There's your mothership. And now, frame by frame, this is in 600 lines of resolution on digital cassette. There's the actual mothership. If this was a little clearer, this tape, you would see the hole in the front of it where they spit the probes out. They spit the saucers out as it goes by. And there goes its probe. Its probe's just going off, going about its business. Okay? Again, you see the same tree that's off my porch. It's in my neighbor's yard, that tree. It's about 100 feet out. My focus is out about 2 or 3 miles. I'm shooting at 10 optical, and I vary my speed. Sometimes I shoot at 160, sometimes I shoot at 110,000. They all seem to appear the same. They're not stretching fields on the film, and I've had them checked out by a number of studios and as authentic. This is the stuff that in a watcher's book. This is stuff that you read about. Here they are. The next shot, remember Flight 800? I predicted it. Has something to do with me. I think one of these UFOs hit it. So I'm waiting to see, okay, when is a plane going to come by? These things, I'm shooting 60 to 80, folks, of these an hour out of one little piece of sky. So it's busier, as I say, in the North Jersey area, busier than Route 3 on Friday afternoon coming out of New York up there anytime I want. See the airplane. There goes the airplane in real time. There goes the giant cigar. Don't worry, I'm going to slow it up. By the way, this is older film. I've used it like 20 times because I couldn't afford to buy another cassette. So it drags just a bit. Here we go. Every 3 frames, we're going to see it come by. As it goes near the bottom, you'll see the cigar come past from the right on top. There it goes. Now I'm going to do it frame by frame. You're going to see the size difference of a DC-9 and a resource cigar. Now, what I believe happened is over Montauk, Long Island, I believe, because of the Montauk project and all that's going on over that way, the alien involvement, Pine Bush, Wanacue, I believe one of these ships manifested at the wrong time in solid form, and Flight 800 was destroyed. That's the airplane. Here comes the cigar now. Here it comes. There's your cigar. It's going to drag just a bit. Now I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to bring it back. So there's the form. Look at the size difference. 10 times bigger. Okay, 10 times bigger. You know what, guys? Would you please fast forward this? Can you do that from there? I got 1 minute, so I just want to show you 15 pictures that are, the rest I will show at the workshop of these ships, orb ships morphing into reality, more motherships. So as you can see, the orb ships coming through. Yeah, they're neat. Now, okay, here I did simple enhancements. This is a Roswell rod right here coming through. I'm not stretching fields again. I'm just shooting them in such clarity that it's unreal. They're running every 12 seconds. That's just the name for them. That's so people know. Crystal ships of light, the Ashtar Command, the good boys, here they are. The actual ships up to the right, those are the enhancements. The pictures are beautiful colors, just like our chakras. Here's that orb ship that I was telling you that I'm going to show you how it morphs into our dimension. Above, again, you always see the same tree there and all that, because I'm a lazy person. Why should I have to travel miles? I can just go to my porch and put my camera on and get all I want. This right here, I call this a money shot. That's a cigar coming up at the back of a cumulus cloud, 35,000 feet in the air. See the cloud in front of the cigar? Indisputable. I have over 600 of these. And just to finish off, you know the lights of Phoenix? I have the light, the same triangle over northern New Jersey flying during the daytime. Folks, I have to stop now.
Yeah, you can see the rest at the workshop. We must move along here.
Okay.
All right. We're sorry about this, but the workshop is where the rest of it will have to come because
Thank
we've
you,
done it.
folks. Thank you.
Pretty good, huh?